Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of Council of the District of Sechelt for Wednesday, January 17th. It being 7 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. Council, we have an agenda and three of our councilors online. So we'll make sure you can each hear us. If you could wave and yep, perfect. Thank you. Any concerns or conflicts? Then we can go to the agenda. Those who were here a few minutes ago heard me say that I would like to move an amendment to the agenda. I do this frankly tentatively because I don't want and don't think this should become a precedent. But I recognize that we've got a number of people in the gallery. And so I would like to amend the agenda to add item 3.2, which as a delegation to hear for no more than 3.3, thank you, for no more than 10 minutes to hear presentations from the people in the group. So that would be my motion to amend the agenda. Is there a seconder? Councillor Shepherd seconds. Any discussion on that? Yes, I guess we need to amend that and then adopt the agenda. No, we haven't voted. It moved and seconded. So
no. That's
no.
a question. Sorry, I should have used my hand.
Yes, please.
I'm out of practice. Can I just ask, did the group actually asked to be a delegation at some point and we couldn't accommodate them tonight, or
I don't know
on this current issue?
I don't believe they made I don't know the answer to that. If there was a request, okay. It was made in the last half hour.
Okay. I guess my concern is that it's not going to be a 10-minute presentation without questions to staff, and I don't think that's fair to staff. I don't think I can support this. I cannot remember the last time I did not vote in favor of a development project. This is not what this is about. But it's just not something that I feel is fair at this point. I would like to hear from them and get them on the agenda as soon as possible, but not without preparation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shepherd.
I'm in support of the delegation speaking. They haven't applied as far as I know, but timing is a real issue here. I did hear their delegation to the SCRD where they were on the agenda. It's a very time sensitive issue, and let's enforce the 10-minute, because I think we can answer those questions within the 10-minute time frame. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yep, that's certainly I agree with that comment. Anything else? Okay, not, I'll call this. So this is a motion to amend the agenda, add 3.3. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Toth, McLaughlin, and Councillor Toth, McLaughlin, a row opposed. The motion carries. So then a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Motion, yes. Thank you, and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor of adoption as amended? Opposed? Councillors Toth and McLaughlin opposed. I didn't see Councillor Rowe's vote, so we'll take that as affirmative. Yep, thank you. And it is affirmative, she said. Okay, thank you. Council, then we move to our first delegation, which is online. We have Mayuki Shinkai from the Sunshine Coast Labor Council. There you are. Oh, that doesn't look like Mayuki, but there you are. Hi. You're both muted. There you. Thanks, Mayuki. Please, the floor is yours to discuss the living wage.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair Mayors Henderson. I hope you all enjoy the snow day today and appreciate your council's invitation to our delegation tonight. My name is Miyuki Shinkai. I'm a president of the Sunshine Coast Labor Council. I'd like to start off acknowledging we on the unceded land of in the sea of Squamish Nation and the Seychelles Nation. We are all privileged to live and work and raise our family here on the coast. A little bit about the Labour Council, who we are. Labour Council is chartered by Canadian Labour Congress and affiliated with the BC Federation of Labour. We represent 15 union local affiliated members, hundreds of frontline public workers on the coast, including healthcare, education, transportation, and public services sectors such as your workers at the District of Sechelt. I'd like to thank mayors and councillors' leadership, ongoing leadership for your effort to improve the District of Sechelt. Tonight, I'm bringing a proposal to you to consider adopting a living wage policy to pay forward to our community. We are going to present the finding from Living Wage for Families BC's research and encourage District of Sechelt to pass a motion to direct staff to study the impact of becoming living wage municipality. As you may have heard that living wage on the coast is now $25.61. This is the third highest in BC and $8.86 higher than minimum wage in BC. So we have all seen the rising cost of food and housing, which increased the living wage significantly here on the coast. So Labour Council believes that living wage employment is a crucial part to sustaining a basic public services and infrastructure on the coast. It ensures workers' economic security, and what that means is to lower staff turnover and increases recruitment and retention of a staff. Also lift the children's poverty, and there are many other benefits to go with. So now I'd like to introduce my team member, Anastasia French from Living Wage for Families in BC, to show you the BC statistics and compare to what it means to us in the process of becoming a living wage municipality. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mayuki. And lovely to meet you all. Thank you very much for taking the time to hear from us today. I'm Anastasia. I'm the Provincial Manager for Living Wage for Families BC. And I'm on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. At Living Wage for Families BC, we do three things. So we calculate what the living wage is. We certify those employers who pay their direct staff and contracted workers a living wage. And we also advocate for policies that both lift wages and lower costs. And so I'll go into a bit of detail about all three. I believe that some of you may have heard my presentation to the Sunshine Coast Regional District. For those folks, there will be a bit of repetition here, but hopefully it's always good. You might have forgotten stuff over the Christmas period, so it's good to refresh your mind. Anyway, on with that. So as Mayuki said, the living wage for the Sunshine Coast is $25.61 an hour. And that means that a worker needs to be earning that amount of money to be able to pay for basic essentials like food, rent, childcare, and other kind of expenses like that. They only to be able to make ends meet. And if you are a living wage employer and you also offer any other non-mandatory benefits, so for example, if you offer full healthcare, you're actually looking at a lower living wage, because then the assumption is that that worker doesn't need to take out a private healthcare plan or anything like that. As Mayuki said, the living wage in the Sunshine Coast, it's the third highest, I think, in BC, definitely within the top 5 highest in BC. And actually, BC is significantly higher than anywhere else in Canada. And the main reason that the living wage is so high right now, and there is that gap between the minimum and the living wage, is because of how expensive housing is and how expensive food is. They're the two things that are really driving up those costs. And the final thing to note about that living wage calculation is we calculate it in partnership with the Sunshine Coast Foundation. So they have provided the kind of local information on how much childcare costs, how much housing costs in the region. So it's calculated locally so that we can really reflect that cost of living. So there are now over 400 employers in BC that have committed to paying their direct staff and their contracted workers a living wage. 12 of them are on the Sunshine Coast, and you can see some of their logos there. And as you can see, they range from nonprofits like the Sunshine Coast Foundation to small businesses like Lenray's Moving and Storage, Bandit Farms, and various different organizations like that. But at the moment, we have yet to have a municipality on the Sunshine Sunshine Coast to sign up and become a living wage employer. And I'm hoping that Seashelt may be the first. We have 10 municipalities across BC who have made that commitment. And those municipalities have found that paying a living wage, it's good for workers, it's good for business, and it's good for local communities. So it's good for workers, and I think we can all understand why earning a living wage is a good thing for workers. It offers independence and peace of mind. If you're earning a living wage, then you don't have to take on a second job and spend time. And if you are taking on a second job, that's time you're not spending with your family or in the local community. You feel valued and appreciated for the work that you do. And you don't have to stress about how you're going to pay for rent or pay for food in these increasingly expensive times. But as well as being good for workers, it's also good for business. And this survey is from living wage employers last year, where 98% found a benefit from being part of the program. The main reason is because it helps organizations live their values. And I think in particular for municipalities that you're trying to look after your residents, and it shows that you're starting with those with your own workers and your own contractors. But it also provides good publicity for organizations. It helps with recruiting staff. We hear a lot at the moment about how we're in the middle of a labor shortage. When actually I think it's a low wage shortage, because low wage workers they're struggling to pay for rent and food, so they're looking for the best jobs that they can. Increases morale and it lowers staff turnover, all of which can help business as well. And then the final bit is that it's good for local communities. When research from Goldman Sachs has found that when low-wage workers receive a pay increase, they're far more likely to spend that money and spend that money locally than when high-wage workers receive a pay increase, high-wage workers, when they get a pay increase, may choose to invest it. They may go on international vacation, lots of different things. Whereas low-wage workers are more likely to treat themselves to a coffee in a local coffee shop or a haircut in a local hairdresser's, all of which helps strengthen community businesses and again raises awareness about living wage. We also know, unfortunately, that often municipalities are the ones that are paying the price for poverty. And the reality is that the majority of people who are living in poverty in BC are working, and they're working really, really hard to try and make ends meet right now. But life is unfortunately so expensive, it's really tough to do that. I'm going to wrap up. My final point, hopefully within time, is how to become a living wage employer. So the certification process works like this for municipalities. The first thing you need to do, and you may have already started these questions, is to find out from staff exactly what the impact will be, how many workers currently are not earning a living wage, what contracts are affected, and that kind of thing. So vote hopefully to conduct a staff report into the impact. Once staff come back, and hopefully you find that there isn't a significant cost, but there are huge benefits, you then vote going ahead with becoming a living wage employer. And then there's a really simple certification form to fill in that we can work with the staff to do that. And throughout the process, we can answer questions that may come up. And hopefully have Seashelt become the first municipality on the Sunshine Coast to become a living wage employer. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and hand it over to any questions that you may have.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. French. Council questions? Councillor Rowe?
Hi, thanks for that. Is part of becoming a living wage municipality, does that just look at your own employees, or does it also look at who we as a municipality do business with?
Well, I don't know what you mean necessarily by business, but it's whoever you make contract work out to.
Okay.
Each municipality, it differs. And it's also anyone who you contract over 120 hours of labor out to a year. So in other municipalities, this is traditionally waste management. It might be cleaning, it might be security guards. Obviously, every municipality is different with how they manage their different services.
Okay.
Well, personally, I'm certainly interested in knowing what the impact would be. I think that's work that I'm willing to move a motion in that respect, that staff bring back a report around what the implications would be to become a living wage community.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rowe, and I think Councillor Bell, is that a second? Okay, thank you. We'll go to other questions. Please, Councillor Shepherd.
To the chair, I wonder if I could direct this to Director Roberts, and wonder if the staff have already looked at this issue. Thank you.
Right. Very good. Nothing like putting you on the spot.
I appreciate the question. Thank you. I'm gonna move this over here. So we have already looked into it. So again, thank you for the question. This ends up being a bargaining issue. So it is if you're in bargaining with the union, and we have committed to being a living wage employer, that is something that we are committed to. And so if they're looking to bargain for other things, then we have to make sure this is a part of that, and that takes away from the union. So they would have to look at that themselves. Also, we currently do not have any employees that are below the living wage. And so when we did look into it, there is a cost to become a living wage employer, and it doesn't really feel like something that exempt staff can make a decision on. It would be something that the BCGEU would have to decide with their membership, because it would affect them more than it would affect us.
Thank you.
Can I respond?
Yes, sorry, yes, please, Ms. French.
But I also don't want to overstep. So with the way we tend with municipalities and with bargaining and with all of that, is that we kind of treat bargaining in the same way we do a contract. So next time that you're in bargaining, or a municipality that has committed to being a living wage employer goes into bargaining to kind of say that we want to be a living wage employer. Most of the unions that we work with are very supportive of living wage, BCGEU in particular. They're a member of our advisory group in ours, so fingers crossed that should hopefully not be a barrier. And just in terms of the annual cost of being a living wage employer, it's depending on the size of your organization and how many staff you have, it's about $200 a year if you have around 400 staff, which is probably where I imagine Sechelt is. So hopefully within your grander budget, it's not a big thing. The big thing is probably your contract cost and your labor cost generally.
Very good, thank you. So just, I want to be clear. So our motion on the floor is to get staff to report. So some of what we've heard would be part of that report. Okay, Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, thank you. The living wage presenters have come to the district a few times. I think a number of years ago, they came and the discussion was pointed out then, and I think has just been pointed out that many of our wages are quite a bit above, and there might be a couple, maybe reception, that are around the amount. But I think the argument is that it was who we contract out to as well was the argument as to why we need to look at living wage. But I would say, though, to this group and to the chair, that I believe there was a report written a number of years ago on this subject. I think it was asked for in 2010. So I mean, we can make a new motion, modernize the request, but there was one written. They came and spoke to us a number of years ago, and I think there was some key council members that were very supportive of that time, at that time, of looking at living wage for not only our workers, but people we contract out to. Thanks.
Thank you. Right. Thanks. Anything else from council? Not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Taking me a moment to go around the virtual room. That motion carries, and I thank you, Ms. Shinkai and Ms. French, for your delegation.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Stay in touch. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, council, so we then move to delegation 3.2, which is the presentation on the SCRD's budget for 2024. What have I done? Okay, so yes, great. Please.
Thank you. Just while they're getting settled, I wanted to clarify that we've amended our agenda for tonight to add another delegation, but our procedure bylaw requires unanimous consent for amended agendas at this time. I just want to clarify that.
Okay, I did clarify that or seek that, and we were anyways, it was a majority, and that's what I proceeded on. So I think in this case, perhaps it's an oversight, but I'll take responsibility for that. So, hi. Good evening, Ms. Perot, Mr. McKinley. Thank you for being here. And yes, press that button and good.
Thank
It's a
you.
good start. Yep. Oh,
It's
yes.
okay.
Sharing. Those common words in the Zoom language. We're just waiting to share our screen. Yes.
In light of the last delegation that we did just have, I'm curious to know, because I know this came up when they presented previously, and the answer wasn't quite clear, but is the SCRD a living wage employer?
No, they're not on the program. They may pay a living wage. Well, we heard that in the delegation that there's nobody on the coast that is a member. So, but Mr. McKinley, do you wanna-
Thank you for the question. We may not be officially registered as part of the program,
Yeah.
but we have verified that by wage for every employee, casual, part-time, full-time, and contractor, we are a living wage employer on the Sunshine Coast.
which I think is what I heard from our staff as well. So, okay, we can start the clock. Ooh, at 7:20. Thank you, Ms. Pro. Done this before. But not that.
Pointing out left or what? Thank you. So the purpose of today's presentation is to provide an overview of the Sunshine Coast Regional District's budget deliberations, and specifically as it relates to the impacts to the District of Sechelt, and to provide an opportunity for the council to provide some questions to us as we enter into our round 2 deliberations and prepare for our final budget adoption. So our board just adopted its new strategic plan in December of last year. And the board identified 2 service delivery focus areas for 2023 to 2027, which was water stewardships and solid waste solutions. In addition to the 2 focus areas, the board identified 4 lenses that provide a framework for how the SCRD will approach all services, initiatives, and projects to meet the economic, social, and environmental challenges of our day. The lenses are service delivery excellence, climate resilience and environment, social equity and reconciliation, and governance excellence. So of course, these are the focus areas that we have most certainly focused on when we are presenting projects for consideration for 2024. So as far as our budget timelines go, this year, we had direction from our board to look for efficiencies in our budget process. So we did not engage in a pre-budget session this year. We went right into our round 1 budget deliberations in December, which happened in the first week. We're now doing community presentations to member municipalities and hosting community sessions as well, and are looking to do our round 2 budget deliberations with adoption scheduled for the end of February. Regional districts are required to present their budget or have their budget adopted before March 31st of each year, so we can inform council's budget process. So what's impacting our budget this year? Again, we have a very ambitious work plan, and we have well over 260 projects being considered for our work plan this year. Many of those are multi-year projects. So large capital projects, for instance, have been underway for several years. So as far as meeting some of those strategic priorities, the focus has been on solid waste and water sourcing projects, with over $23.5 million worth of projects considered for our budget this year. Part of those considerations are resourcing to accommodate them with a combination of one-time projects to facilitate projects. And there's just a few considered as part of our operational considerations. And this is all in context to an organizational review that's being considered for the regional district, which is still underway. We have obviously service costs that are impacting us, just like most businesses and local governments. And so what are those costs? They are labor, materials, and transportation costs, fuel, and insurance. And so like many other local governments in the province, we're seeing that many of our bid contracts are coming well over budget. And so we've had a lot of financial plan amendments. And so those have been considered as far as increasing contingencies and really sharpening pencils when we do proposals for this year. So just naming off some projects that are impacting or that the District of Sechelt participates in. We also have several solid waste projects. So staff have identified an option to extend the life of the landfill potentially until 2030. So that's really good news. Anyone who knows about our solid waste challenges here, our landfill was scheduled to close in 2026. This project will involve relocating the contact water pond. So anyone who's familiar with the site will know what that means, which manages stormwater that comes into contact with solid waste. That'll just allow us some more footprint area. And so that's part of how we'll add some additional years to the landfill. Our BC Transit service expansion has been approved in principle with our board back in the fall, and that's a requirement of BC Transit. But that has some additional staffing, but it definitely increases some desire to increased frequency within the Route 90. Our Sechelt Aquatic Center, the work continuing for the sprinkler system is ongoing, and staff are also looking to engage in a recreation needs assessment for all of the recreation, the 4 facilities that we have. We took those on back in 2007 and 2008, and it'll inform the future of recreation services on the Sunshine Coast. So as far as water, as being a big focus area for the board, some of the big ticket items this year are related to maintenance of the system. And I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but essentially we have a very complex and large system that spans the whole entire coast that needs upgrade to pumps and treatment plan, additional funding to relocate exposed water mains for the Chapman Creek. And we also have important upgrades to our water treatment plant. As far as water sourcing, there is a large focus on continuing our groundwater exploration. And there has and will be a presentation on January 25th related to that initiative. And we also have water metering that's well underway within the District of Sechelt. So another thing we wanted to highlight, because District of Sechelt, along with many of the other local governments, we contribute over $2 million to many of our community partners. And so these are naming some. Of course, the District of Sechelt doesn't participate in many, but it's well over 2 million that goes towards these initiatives. And I think it's important to understand that local governments are also supporting these important services. So some of the other going on to our preliminary operating budget. So it just gives an idea of the magnitude of where we're at. And for any of you who've been participating in these, you can see that the regional district budget has doubled in just maybe less than 5 years, and especially from the operating side. So we're looking at over a $61 million budget just heading into our round 2, and we have several initiatives that haven't been adopted. And of course, water and recreation and cultural services are our largest service area. And our capital budget is also very ambitious. That's the next slide there, which shows almost a $50 million preliminary capital budget. And this is, again, just after round 1. One of the largest projects that hasn't been decided on is the Langdale Well, and that's our next itemized project related to groundwater sourcing, which came in at over $23 million, I believe, as far as what the estimation is. So staff are providing a report on the financial and legislative implications to considering that project, as well as our partnership with Shell Nation for the reservoir is also a work in progress, and we're awaiting funding decisions related to that project. So another item that we haven't brought forward to our board yet is related to Sunshine Coast assessments. The reason why we bring this forward for consideration is the regional district model is sort of it's a shared consideration, and depending on what services you provide is how you share the piece of the pie of the services you participate in. And so assessments have a direct correlation to that. And so for 2024, for the first time in many years, the Sunshine Coast as a whole has seen a total overall reduction in assessment values. So how those translate into the apportionment costs for each of the services, such as transit, solid waste, et cetera, will change right up until we adopt the budget. So part of the regional district's requirement based on its existing bylaws, we're required to adopt our user rate and parcel tax is based before December 31st. And so the water rates bylaws were approved in December. And so for 2024, the overall impact for the regional water service participant is going to be an increase between the user fee and parcel tax of about $121. And our recreation parcel tax is the same as it has been in the last year. And usually that changes just based on how many new properties come online. So probably a slight reduction. So as far as property tax requisition goes, the preliminary rate per 100,000 is increasing just around $8 per household. And again, this is subject to change because we're only into our round one and there's a lot of items that have been deferred. So as far as where the District of Sechelt, when we requisition the District of Sechelt for the property tax side of the house, the majority of things go to recreation services. And of course, the other larger consideration is for solid waste and for transit as well. So we also just wanted to highlight that we focus a lot of the times related to the property tax, but we also wanted to mention and ensure that people understood that there's also the parcel tax related to things and the estimated 2024 parcel tax. And again, this is still being worked out, is over $3.2 million. So what's next? Like I said, we're holding some community info sessions for all of the region on Monday, January 22nd and the 24th, held, I think, in our boardroom as well as online. Our round 2 budget deliberations are going to be on February the 5th and potentially the 6th, depending on how we can get through our agenda, with our final budget adoption on February the 22nd. So with that, if there are any questions, thank you.
Thank you. Very much. Council, questions? Please, Councillor Shepherd.
To the chair, I'm just curious who the SCRD works with. You were talking about the assessment problem with the decrease in assessments. Do you work directly with the province? Do you work with the other governments on the Sunshine Coast? How is that all handled?
So BC Assessment is the authority related to property tax. And so essentially there's a process there. As far as a local government goes, we work with our deputy assessor as far as any risk to rolls. So right now we haven't really, or none have really been identified. The last one on really significant note was when the Housetown Pulp and Paper closed half of the mill down back in, I can't remember what year, 11, 13, somewhere thereabouts. And so that had a significant impact. So we don't typically engage with them as far as an appeal process, et cetera, unless they have any relevant implications associated with that. BC Ferries too, when some of the terminals came through as far as having different classification, that local governments on the coast did get involved in that process back, very similar to when that was, as far as really what the implication to the community was. But otherwise, it really is in the hands of BC Assessment, and they have BC Assessment guidelines and regulations. So essentially that's enacted in law, and there's a whole process associated with that. So at this point, we didn't see any risks.
Great. Yeah, it's a never-ending series of complexities, that assessment process. Councillor Bell, you're everywhere in the room.
To the chair, just clarification in terms of recreation and cultural services. The list may be too great to share here, but can you give me an idea of what is in that bundle? I'm assuming it's the recreation centers, but what else is in that bundle?
We have some of the joint use for the agreement between their regions or member municipal, so the regional share of our community school agreement with SD 46. We also have things like regional recreation, so that supports some of the youth programs in the community. So those would be the ones, but mostly it is the community recreation facilities, but the four, because we do have one that operates in Pender, but District of Sechelt, that's not part of the regional system.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Maybe I'll ask one, what, I gather there's an projected increase in headcount that, in the budget at this point?
So there is a projected or preliminary approved headcount. So I did look prior to coming here. So in 2023, our headcount was, our full-time equivalents were 245. And so it's projected for coming into at the end of round one, it was just under 250. And part of that was the increase in transit that I think has been considered, or their approvals from the prior year that are coming online. Because what we do when we approve staffing is we prorate them. So it's the full cost implication. Most staffing requests were deferred to round two pending the organizational review that we're underway.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so by and large, it's not actually new hires. It's catching up because last year was a 0.5 or a 0.7.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Can I see a hand? Okay. And I guess one I know I struggle with here around the district, how does the SCRD assess how to save money?
I think that we go through multiple ways as far as user fees is a very good example. So there's many bylaws last year that were delayed or were not reviewed for several years. So one of our areas in particular is through our planning division, our planning fees, and especially our things related to our DCCs. We're going to be proposing some reviews for that. So as far as cost recovery goes, that's most certainly an area. I think another area that local governments are trying to be more innovative as far as reducing the tax burden is looking at our investment portfolios. So of course, we all have very large investment portfolios. And so that really defers the requirement to provide or have to have tax subsidy associated, especially with capital renewal. So that's an area that we work really hard. We do a lot of cash flow associated with that. And even with our tax requisition funds, we do weekly cash flow associated with that. And we've done pretty well. And it's really has impacted our tax requirements. Definitely looking at efficiencies. That's part of, and maybe Dean wants to mention that or talk to that, is our organizational review is part of that undertaking. I think we're coming to a point where we're really looking at how we can do things better, and process engineering is an area where we're also looking to revise business processes to do more efficient business processes. So either with software or those types of things, we are looking to improve. So it definitely is an area we're very focused on. It's an item that I think the board also identified as part of a strategic lens with service delivery excellence. So that's an area, I don't know if he wants to speak to any more of that. But
I don't know. Does he want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, the organizational review that we commissioned earlier this year and is still underway, but approaching the finalization stages, was really designed to take a look at a couple of things. One, given the incredible amount of projects we have on the go, and Tina had some of the numbers up there earlier, do we have the right people in the right places doing the right things to ensure that we're operating as effectively and efficiently as possible? I have said to staff and our board in our organization that right now the promise I can make to people that join the Sunshine Coast Regional District is welcome aboard, prepare to do the most work you've ever done. That's not the promise I wanted to make. I wanted to make a promise, welcome aboard, prepare to do the most effective work you've ever done. So part of the reason of the organizational review was taking a look at, based on board priorities, the lay of the land, everything that's going on, what should we be focused on and where do our people need to be aligned? The other part of this is looking at what tools and systems need to be improved in order for us to save hundreds, thousands of hours a year so that we're not just working more effectively, but we're making better use of the time we have available. Those are things that were part of the scope of that project. We have a number of recommendations that we're starting to wrap our heads around and move forward with on implementation. There will be budget items coming to round 2 that are directly involved in implementing the recommendations in the organizational review. The other piece of this, though, is that because of how busy we've been and because of the amount of projects that are going on, we also haven't kept up with some of our fees and charges. We need to review our recreation fees. We need to review our development cost charges. We need to review a lot of things. So it's both reducing the amount of wasted time and reducing our or increasing our organizational efficiency, but also increasing the revenues we bring in by more appropriately charging the correct fees for the services we provide.
Thank you. Okay, council. You okay? Everybody? Up, Councilor Inkster put his hand up at the last. This would be the last question. Please, Councilor Inkster. And you're muted. Thanks.
So it's interesting that we talk about fee reviews at the regional district. We have to keep in mind that if we change any fees or up any fees in the recreational facilities, that may potentially have a direct effect on families using those facilities. So we have to weigh that in our community, is, you know, because we want to encourage community members and family members to use the ice rinks and the aquatic centers and any other recreational things affordably. So we always have to balance that with any budgetary issues. Thanks.
Thank you. Yep. I think everybody would agree with that comment. Okay, thank you. Thank you both as always. Nice to see you. Okay, so then we will move to item 3.3, and I don't know who's, I did want to say, you know, this is a unique thing. I'm proposing, I move this because it's a unique time-sensitive issue, and our next board meeting, council meeting isn't until early February. So, Councillor Toth, I'd like you to hear this. I hear your concerns, you guys. I hear your questions, and that's what I want to get it tight today. But this is not about a debate, and I want to go back because I was a bit distracted. I would not normally agree to do this. Okay, we set agendas, we work on our time, the allocation of staff time, and the work that goes into the agendas. But I think Councillor Shepherd, you got it right. It is time sensitive. And it's unusual, but because of the calendar, we don't have a meeting for 3 weeks or 3 weeks. So, so that's why I'm prepared to do it. I don't want to debate. I won't entertain a debate. We're here to hear some specifics. And if it suits council, I am willing to, with you, if you wish to participate with me, but I will undertake to take your comments and work with staff in the next 2 days and respond publicly to the comments that you make. I welcome any other suggestions, but that's what I came up with in the last 45 minutes or so. In the absence of council having any comments on that particular thing, I'll ask somebody who's speaking for you, Mr. Jenkins. I need you to sit, please, and press that button so the red light comes on. And yes, you do. There we go. Good. Okay. Yeah, that's so people on Zoom can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, John. Good evening, members of the Sechelt Council, staff, visitors, and guests. What an incredible segue tonight. Wages. Living wages, water, recreation, infrastructure, taxes, and housing. Meant to be. For those of you that I do not know, I am Kai Jenkins, CEO of Jenkins Construction. I was raised in Sechelt after my parents moved here in 1980. I began learning about customer service and community at my first job down the road at the Sechelt Shell Station in 1995. Fast forward 20 years to 2014, and my wife and I made the decision to start a business in Sechelt while raising our 3 kids. My family, along with a small representation of the business leadership of this community, are very concerned with the development permit hold in the district of Sechelt and the potential economic damage to our communities. The leadership here tonight understands that all aspects of business and economics on the Sunshine Coast will be disrupted by this hold in a negative way. Water infrastructure, flow rates, and capacity are crucial, yet so is housing. In fact, we need to triple the production of homes here on the Sunshine Coast, not choke the supply for our community to thrive. For those of you unaware, the coastal construction, development, and real estate industries are the economic engine of our region. We are a majority employer of thriving and living wage jobs with thousands of staff spread across the general contractors, professionals, trades, and suppliers. The development industry contributes to life on the coast in the most vital form by creating shelter, and our impact on the community at large cannot be forgotten. We provide high-paying jobs that allow our staff to spend money within our community, purchasing homes, dining out, buying groceries for their families, and paying taxes. We provide the crucial housing needed for the nurses to operate Sechelt Hospital and the RCMP to maintain safety in our community. Furthermore, we support a lifestyle that allows our industry to volunteer for the community. Firefighters, coaches, board members, trail builders, search and rescue, the list goes on. Our coastal economy and community are dependent on all these people, the people and businesses who pay the taxes that build our community. Restricting development and water scarcity messaging is damaging our worldwide image as a great place to live and invest. We do not want this. We want more investment in housing. We want more investment in businesses to help shoulder the tax and infrastructure burden. We want this community to thrive. The indecision leading to the poor resource management of money, people, water, and time must pivot immediately to a culture of urgency and service. We need decisions, not delays. We need action, not reports. We must take action to meet the community's needs for the next generation, my own kids and their grandkids one day. This must be accomplished with a pipeline, or this can be accomplished in a variety of ways. A pipeline to Coquitlam, drilled wells, like previously mentioned, and the creation of a reservoir. As a father and businessman, I envision the town of Sechelt thriving, one with green soccer fields, a pool that has water, ice in the arena, a town where entrepreneurship is encouraged and celebrated, a town where people can afford to buy a home and raise a family. Thriving development, or a thriving development vision, will attract entrepreneurs and investment to grow our town and pay for infrastructure. We come here today hoping to collaborate on solutions with expert professionals to help Sechelt find the path forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Jenkins, just have a sec. I want to make sure. Does council have any questions for Mr. Jenkins? Please, Councillor Shepherd.
I actually don't have any questions for Mr. Jenkins. I mean, I heard the presentation given by, I think, someone in this group at the SCRD. This is an issue, I think, to do just to refine it it came about because of the fire flow study that the SCRD now I'm seeing someone shaking their head. So it is. So that's where the SCRD wants to study certain areas of fire flow to make sure they meet certain standards. And I heard someone speaking very compelling argument that they have a company working all over BC. They're working in areas where the fire flow does not meet those standards. I guess they're provincial standards. And they said, we've done this before. We can do it here. We just want to work with the SCRD about what these standards are. And the person said, I've got a call into the SCRD, into the CAO. And I guess my question to your group is, have you heard back from the SCRD about that? And I'm seeing no. Okay, that was my question.
All right, thank you. Okay. The specifics that we heard before the meeting, so just to keep our time short, was that the development processes had been stopped in the district of Sechelt. So I'm wanting to put that on the record that that's what I heard, because as I said earlier, I'm undertaking to respond publicly in a couple of days.
Yeah, I'll pass this over here.
Okay.
Just very quickly, in respect of time, and thank
Yes.
you very much, Council, for allowing us to this unusual event. I just wanted to say that, yeah, the specific issue, although triggered from an FUS study with the SCRD, I don't believe any of us here are concerned that the SCRD is studying their FUS components and coming up with solutions. We can help with that, and that's great. But what brings us here tonight specifically is because there was a reaction that shut down all development application and processes. So that's our concern. That is our livelihood. That is what Kai was speaking about, being a father in this area, the concerns that come up. We do have one fellow who's set to speak here just to share quickly about some of the water solutions that very shortly that he's coming up with, which are very, very unique and whatever, that are resourceful for us. But the case in point is simply this. We're here to ask council to instruct staff to lift this ban on development application processes and allow us to continue to see things come through on the agendas as we discussed prior to the opening of the meeting.
All right, thank you. You put that on the record. The comment that somebody wants to talk about water solutions, I personally would love it, but I don't think that's within the mandate of this delegation. So we can, I suggest that can be something we deal with later.
One last thing, just to speak to Councillor Shepherd's point. Steve Dunton was the one who spoke, and so I'm just going to allow him just a little bit of time here.
Well, sorry, I think we've got enough, Steve. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, if I could just address the last question, is you're coming before the district about a freeze that you're saying was put on, and I wonder if I could redirect that to.
I'm getting there. Yeah. Yeah. So, a reminder that a debate, I said we weren't going to have a debate, and that involves both sides. So I do know, Mr. Allen, you want to make a brief comment?
Thank you, Your Worship, and certainly not entering into the debate, but just want to clarify. Development applications are not frozen. There is no moratorium on development. We approved close to $80 million in assessed value for building in 2023, more than quadrupled from 4 years ago. Development application is very strong, as you see time and time again on council agendas. This will be one of the very few councils without an application. We have 2 development applications, one for a duplex, as well as multifamily units on Christian Road going to Advisory Planning Commission in 3 weeks. Development activity is strong. We, for a short period of time, based on our communication with SCRD, will not be issuing servicing agreements for subdivisions, as well as the larger buildings. Larger buildings like Green Court, TELUS, for example, $30 million buildings, those ones are issued. Respecting other ones of that nature, we want to ensure that there are fire flow protection for those large buildings. So for a very short period of time, we will not be issuing servicing agreements, which is respecting connection to municipal services, including regional water. but is not the same as a moratorium on development. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I didn't want to, I did have the benefit of your comments previously, and I wanted to reconfirm with you tomorrow, but I think you said that. So you got 30 seconds because we're over time. Yeah.
We too agree that you have to follow FUS. If you didn't hear that, we agree with what he's saying.
Right.
It's just that we do it. Normally the staff at a city don't do it and they don't hold it up.
Right.
But we have some deliverables here that we're going to ask for. And the deliverables are, we would like a full court press. The province is saying we have to provide housing. So we would like to get to the state where special council meetings are called in order to keep things moving forward. We're often don't have room on the agenda to move it forward. We would like, we're understanding by the staff themselves, 20% of one engineer is dedicated to development. And I know you have many more than one engineer. And it's not a debate, but what we want is basically a more supportive system to move these projects forward. And we have quite a few suggestions how to do that. But communication has to start somewhere. And I think the people here and the people that are online and the people that wanted to be here, but the snow didn't allow them to be, our message to you is we're not here to beat you up on what we have done. We're here to say, we all have a problem. The province has downloaded housing onto us throughout this province. And I am certain, like every other community, staff are trying to figure out how they're going to do more with the time they have. And we're here to help you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I think I've got it. I will continue. You've heard from Director Allen, but I will meet with him. And we'll formally respond before the end of the week. Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Oh, sorry. I missed Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, just thank you, Chair. I think that Director Allen indicated that there's been a number of approvals by this council since the beginning of the term, and I think that all the development applications that have come in front of us have been approved. And I think there's general consensus on council to make those approvals to create not only larger homes, but also affordable homes for our community. And those houses that are being created and are built and those subdivisions being approved are hopefully being built by many of the people that are in the room there, because that's what also is important to the council. But my question just through you to Andrew is just clarification, because he did mention the number of approvals. I'm not sure if he spoke to the fact that last week the builders had indicated that there was a moratorium that had been placed on continuing to build, and I'm wondering if the application process is continuing at the district, because that's what I heard from Director Allen, and I just want it confirmed, because one group is saying that we've put a moratorium on it, and then I'm not hearing that from staff. So if we could have that confirmed, that would be great.
That is what Director Allen said. And again, I think there's more of a messaging thing here. I'm speaking to Director or Councillor Inkster by looking here instead of at you, but I think we can maybe do a little more to get the messaging better. And that was something I'm undertaking to do with any of you that would like to join me to help. Okay, great. So thank you, everyone. Stick around, it gets better. Okay. All right, we'll move on, council, to sorry, now it's my turn. Thank you. 5.1, the extension of the pilot project for the security patrols. This is on page 3 of our agenda. And is there anybody that, council, we've seen the report. Maybe in the interest of expediency, are there Any questions? Any concerns? Yes, please, Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I'm just wondering, given that it's the depths of winter, if we get a report on, you know, how much.
Sorry, just half a sec. Can you guys, sorry. Yeah. What she said. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
please, sorry,
Yes,
Councillor
regarding
McLaughlin.
the usefulness of the security patrols, just get some kind of feedback on that, given the time of year and it's not really tourist season. And I mean, living downtown, I find things are pretty, you know, very quiet.
Okay.
And I don't feel
All
the
right,
same
thank you.
urgency that I did before. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, Ms. Roberts.
Thank you for the question through the chair. So we are seeing a decrease in a number of activities that were happening before the security patrol, including vandalism, the fires. They are there from 10 till 6 p.m. So they're providing feedback to business owners as well. So there is some loitering in the front entrances of businesses that we're now able to share with the business owners. And so they're upping their security. And they're also connecting with the community as well as with the RCMP. So when they're speaking to the RCMP, they're filing reports and doing some of that work that wasn't getting done before. So they're able to identify what's going on. And what else? I was just wanting to mention the infrastructure with the businesses. So things like spray painting and the breaking of windows. That's no longer happening in the same volume that was happening before. And we did see that decrease. There was a graph that I had shared with the council regarding 2023 to 2022, and we did see a decrease in vandalism. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I see Councillor Rowe and then Councillor Inkster.
I was just going to echo pretty much what Director Roberts just said there. I think we had some pretty positive feedback from the community safety group from their the ones that were at the last meeting. We didn't have a full complement of people there, but everyone felt like it was having some impact. And being that we've already approved the money and we just haven't spent it all, I think if we can continue to collect that data, then I think that would be a good thing. So I'm in favor of this.
Was that a motion?
I can move the recommendation that the pilot project to provide a contract professional security service to the patrol of the downtown area be extended for approximately 3 months for up to $28,007.27 to be carried forward from the previously approved budget.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Yep, a few seconds. Thank you. And just to clarify, so really the intent is we've got the money from the last year's budget and we will extend the services as far as we can with that, the remaining money. That's the spirit of the resolution.
That's correct. And so you had approved the 50,000, not knowing how much we would be spending in those first 3 months. And it just turned out that we didn't spend as much as we thought we would in those first 3 months. So it's giving us a benefit of a longer time with the security patrol.
So there's no impact on, I mean, we're saying from COVID restart, but it's already allocated from that previously. So yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Inkster?
Yeah, this is an easy one. I had to read it twice. It's just because the 3 months is over and that was part of the previous motion, but there's 28,000 left. That's why I seconded it. If in fact I did, you counted that. I think after this is done, maybe it'll be the end of April. I think it's really important. It's good to hear the positive feedback from members of our community that felt like we weren't supporting them. And we are. What I would ask as we vote on this, that staff comes back to us at the end of this program again, and we need to maybe talk about some other work with patrols, whether it's an information gathering vehicle going forward or whatever it may be, just a presence. Because I just think that we have a number of issues downtown that patrols may be able to help us with. So I hope they can come back to us in April. Thank you.
I would be amazed if they didn't. In fact, perhaps even a bit earlier than April. I saw, oh yes, Councillor Bell, please. Muted.
Through the chair, thank you. I just really am echoing as well what Councillor Rowe and Councillor Inger said. Certainly the data is very important. We want to continue to collect that, certainly through the times that we know there's more happening than less, and it's still good to have that data no matter what time of the year. But most importantly, it's really that our community knows that we're listening and that we do care. And this is why I think this is such an important initiative to continue.
Very good. It sounds like we should, Councillor McLaughlin, I was going to say call the question, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm not ready to call the question. I think saving money is good for the taxpayer if we don't need to spend it. Even if we have the COVID funds, maybe we should be using the money towards supporting the homeless. A carrot instead of a stick. I'd much rather see that approach. I don't think our issues are so out of whack and so extreme that we need to just march on as if we have this horrible ordeal to deal with. I think most people would appreciate that who live in the village area. And yeah, I don't really support this at this time. I think we could save the money and use it later if we need it in more directed ways. Thank you. Money is money.
Thank you. You remind me to give a shout out to the security detail. I have observed them a little bit, but I know I've heard lots of comments and they use a very even-handed, very non-confrontational supportive approach, I think. So, you know, I wouldn't want to categorize that we're out being aggressive or pushing people inappropriately. I think they're just keeping folks moving. And my concern, if we were to stop this, it's hard to know, but would the problems arise or are they stopped right now because the patrols are continuing? With that, whoops.
Sorry, I just have to add one thing. I'm sorry.
Just
we do get actual, like they send staff logs of what they do during their shift. And it's pretty detailed. They're not bored. So whatever time of the year it is, there's people who that's when they live our nights are their days. Let's just say that. So, and the other thing is I asked some people that work with that population if you know what their experience has been, and they have nothing bad to say about it. So this is not turned into a punitive situation where people are punished in any way. Let's just say that. And so I think that's important to point out. And I think that's great work that the patrols are doing. And I won't talk anymore. Let's vote.
Thank you. I'll consider that, call the question. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Councillor McLaughlin is opposed. The motion carries. Council will go then to item 5.2, which is the Kirkland House sublease. Again, I guess we're looking to our corporate officer to answer questions. Anybody got questions? Anything you do want to add to the report? No? Thank you. I was looking for little hands on my Zoom screen. Councillor Inkster, please.
I'll move the motion.
Okay, thank you. And second.
Okay. Yeah.
Great.
I had
Please, yeah, and if then a question, Councillor McLaughlin.
I was just wondering whether other, like Gibson's or other places have got hospice space, whether it really falls within the responsibility of municipal governance. And I wondered if this lease is, I thought somewhere it was a 1-year extension. It's a 5-year. So, I mean, I would like to be able to consider the space for other uses, for instance, homelessness, or things that are now issues we have to deal with where we're looking for places to put needy people. And this is an asset that we have, which we could repurpose for that. And I just feel, given our current situation and the assets that we have, we should start looking at some of these things. I would be more interested in a 1-year lease while we could explore things. Because, I mean, look at the weather we have. Look at the terror we sort of went through this winter with the horribly deep snow and the very cold temperatures. I just, I feel a need to try and, find some accommodation for other, homeless, needy people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll jump in. Just, I feel actually I have quite a reaction to that. We need hospice so badly. The idea that if we could find other venues for hospice, then I would be happy to consider what you're suggesting. But at the moment, there's nothing more important than hospice to me. On a level, the homeless issue could not be dealt with housing in Davis Bay off where there's no bus service and far away from all the other services that the unhoused typically require. Councillor Bell, and then Councillor Rowe and Councillor Inkster.
Yes, through the chair. Absolutely, there's no question, Councillor McLaughlin, that we do need for the homeless, but I would ask you to just go by and see what happens in the hospice and see the programs that are happening there, the lives that they are affecting. And it's not just the cancer patients, it's the caregivers, it's everyone that's affected by cancer. So I am completely supportive of this incredible service, and I wish that we had more to give them.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
I'm just considering what I can say and not get myself fired. Just to be clear, this is a house that's used to provide a wide range of programs for patients and family, not just cancer, but any sort of end of life diagnosis. And there's a very active board, and for years and years and years, this active board has been trying to find a way to have a freestanding hospice that actually cares for patients on site. And if I were a betting woman, I think that they're going to get somewhere with that. So I hear Councillor McLaughlin's concern around the value of this asset for the district of Sechelt, whatever it could possibly be used for. And I think we have to keep that in mind. However, I would not evict him until they had somewhere to go. So if in a perfect utopia, their dream is, able to be realized one day, then, that might be something where the services are combined. But this is an invaluable service that that is offered, and this is a way that we can support that society. So I'm certainly in favor of the lease agreement.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a long-term rental for the district of Sechelt to that organization for many, many years. The hospice is a place of comfort. It's not necessarily large, but it's a place of comfort and for family and for those with medical challenges. And it's a needed service that we should be helping and or facilitating to provide in our community. And I don't think it's central necessarily for the homeless who tend to be in the downtown core. This is in Davis Bay, as we all know. It's needed service that we need to provide for our community. And as we know, as we all know from the numbers of funerals and et cetera that we've been going through over the last number of years, it's critical that we provide this this comfort to families and those with challenges. Thanks.
Thank you. So just before I go to you, The one technical thing I wondered to our corporate officer, there's comments made about that they will pay taxes, but they can seek exemption. I was curious why we're leaving that open is there some significance? That's fairly unusual, I think.
You have to apply.
They would have to apply, that's true.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the changes that we're making across all of our leases, just to make sure that they're consistent, is to make sure that there is a requirement to pay taxes on the lease. So it's very clear to everybody. For those that are eligible for the permissive property tax
Right.
exemption, we're just including that statement for comfort for that leaseholder.
Okay, so thank you, because so that's a sort of a change in our staff's policy towards these sort of things that we will say, hey, presumably, most everybody has to pay taxes, but some of you can seek exemption.
That's correct. Everybody does have to pay
Great.
taxes. It just hadn't always been as clear in every single lease.
All right, thank you. That's asked and answered. Councillor McLaughlin?
Yes, just to follow up to the chair about the idea of homelessness. Sometimes homeless people are mothers with children and they would like to be in a location like that close to Davis Bay School. So I really don't understand what your definition of homelessness is, that they all have to be downtown. I don't agree with that at all. And we have Shorencliff coming available and Totem Lodge. Maybe those would be better places for hospice. We haven't talked about that. There's possibilities. There could be people who want to leave their entire estate to help with hospice, and maybe they would be willing to provide a property. I don't know.
Councillor McLaughlin,
But
I agree with
that's
those
what
as
I'm
comments
thinking.
for the future. There
Well,
will be
we
for us-
would have to
what-
not
excuse me,
renew this
what's
entire lease
before
for
us
5
is a
years.
lease.
to
It
not
is not.
Yeah.
The lease is not for 5 years now. The lease starts in January 1st, 2022. So in fact, we're approving it for what amounts to another 3 years.
1 year, 3 year, 5 years, let's get that sorted out.
Well, no, that's in the documents.
I did ask about that. Yeah, even for 3 years, I think it's 1 year I'd be comfortable with to analyze things and take a fresh look. I'm not comfortable 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Oh, did I get a motion? I did get a motion.
Well, did you get a seconder?
Yes, I did. I got several seconds, including you, Councillor Ixer. All in favor?
Because I was the introducer, so.
McLaughlin is opposed. The motion carries. Thank you. We move to 6.1 and the council procedure bylaw. And this is before us for adoption. Anything anybody needs to tell us or ask? Nope. Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion for adoption.
So moved.
Seconded. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Then we go to we have to do the bylaw itself. So this is council procedure amendment bylaw number 56804, 2023. And it is before us for adoption, if it pleases you. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 6.2, filming in the district of Sechelt. So there's a lengthy set of recommendations, and this is to rescind third reading. And I guess, is there anything? I think it's fairly self-explanatory.
Sorry, that's all I was going to say is that if you have any questions, we're happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I have a suggestion, which to add to our list of facilities to make sure that when potential movie producers are looking at it, that they know about, we've got a list on the, actually in the bylaw of municipal facilities and properties. And I would encourage that we add explicitly to that on page 26, that we had the Water Resource Center. I think that and the area around it, whether it's the dog park or even the marsh perhaps, but I think that would be something that could be very attractive to producers. So guess that would need to come into this part first, and then we'd add that in the bylaw.
We certainly could add an additional provision into this amendment. However, staff would caution that we haven't had a chance to refer that particular facility to our chief wastewater operator to check that there's no issues with adding it to a regular ongoing list of facilities for filming. However, I would also just mention that because this is our first film that we will have in the District of Sechelt, staff are approaching this process as a learning process. We are providing some recommendations and fees just so that we can recover some of the costs that our staff will incur in facilitating the films to proceed. We could certainly, we will likely be bringing forward some additional recommendations to modify the policy and potentially the fees and charges after this film production has completed.
Well, I don't have a movie producer chomping at the bit, so as long as it comes back, I just, this is not about that. If there's other facilities, I'd like to see them, us pursue that with the industry. So, okay, so council, we've got recommendations on page 22 to rescind third reading and then to give third reading with as amended with the various changes. Any Councillor Inkster, thank you.
They just want to rescind third reading. You're looking for a motion to rescind?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yeah.
And seconded. Okay, all in favor of rescinding third reading? Carried. Scratching your back as a vote of in favor, Councillor Bill. Okay, and then the second item is on item 2 of the recommendations. I won't read the whole thing, but A, B, C, D, and E. Is that Councillor Inkster, your hand is up, but
yeah, just a question. Obviously we need to move forward with this, but staff's referring to an existing production. Is that the LR Wright one? Is that what they're referencing?
That's correct. That's the one that's filming in Sechelt and Gibsons at the moment.
Good. Should be all in Sechelt. It's like putting
I know.
It's like putting the beachcombers in Sechelt. You know? I
wish I'd set a clock for the first person to say beachcombers. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Clerk. Okay, so we have a motion for item 2. And any discussion about that? Not all in favor? Carried. So then we go to the bylaw. Ms. Clark, I assume you were listening in before
I
you
was
came on
listening
screen.
in. Good evening, Chair, and good evening, District Councillors.
Very good, thank you. Okay, we have bylaw number 575-14-2023. And I hear staff a little bit reticent to add the Water Resource Center to the municipal properties on page 26 at this point, but I would encourage and ask that you consider that and maybe bring it back in the foreseeable future. So with that, a motion or
I'll move that bylaw 575-14-2023 be adopted
no, a third reading.
as amended.
This is for third reading. So now we got to, right. So this is before us for third reading at this point as amended. Okay. I see a second. Okay, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Great. And so we have to bring it back for adoption at the next meeting. Terrific. Thank you, Ms. Clark. We can then go to the minutes. This is the minutes on page 27, January 10th, 2024. Comments or concerns? Hearing and seeing none, a motion to adopt and seconded. All in favor of adoption? Carried. Item 7.2. The meeting of December 13th. Yes. Okay. Anything? Any concerns? Motion, please. And seconded. All in favor of adoption? Carried. Item 7.4, this is the Committee of the Whole meeting of January 10th. And same question. Any concerns? Not. Motion to adopt. Seconded. Thank you, Councillor Inkster, for seconding it. All in favor? Adopted. And last.
My apologies, Your Worship. You mentioned 7.4 was being adopted. 7.4 is for receipt and endorsement of recommendations 2, 3, 4, and 5. I believe we skipped 7.3.
No, I did say 7.4, but I beg your pardon. I said 7.4 in reference to the committee. All right, with everybody's indulgence, we'll go back and item 7.3, the minutes of December 20th. Before us, this is on page 33. Actually, thank you, our corporate officer. Perhaps this is our new software system, but I noticed a reference on page 38 to no vote, which is a new terminology in respect of a couple of resolutions. Can you just
That's correct. There was no actual vote on the motion that was presented. Rather than that, there was some discussion on the motion as presented, and then some discussion on the suggestion that recommendation 5 be pulled and voted on separately. There may have been some confusion with reference to a friendly amendment. According to legislation, there is actually no such thing as a friendly amendment. So these items weren't in fact voted on. However, recommendations 1 to 4 were moved and seconded in the following resolution and then carried. Items 5 and 6 were then dealt with following that.
Okay, so given there was no vote, what struck me as curious was then why are they in the minutes?
Any motion that's moved and seconded is a part of the permanent record.
And it was moved and seconded. Okay. Thank you for keeping us on the straight and keeping me on the straight and narrow. How about that? Okay, that's yeah. Right. Anything from the rest of council? We're on page item 7.3. Pages 33 to 38, I believe. No, more than that. 73, 7.3, starting on page 33. How about that? And okay. Oh, okay. No, that's fine. Okay, then motion to adopt these minutes. Seconded, and all in favor? Carried, and yes, okay. Now we'll go to item 7.4, which is the Committee of the Whole meeting of January 10th. And council, anything there? By the way, I suppose I don't think it warrants a change, but on page 43, under my comments, there was a reference to the fire on Marmot. was responded to quickly by the Sechelt Fire Department. I think my reference was at that point that one of our staff, who happens to be a member of the Community Safety Committee, had to leave quickly to fight the fire. So I just anchor that for the record. Yep. Okay. I don't propose a change. Okay. Motion to endorse. Okay. Thank you. And second. And all in favor? Carried. Then the Committee of the Whole meeting of December 13th. So, any concerns, council? Is on page 48 onwards. No, a motion then. Oh, yeah. Motion, please, to endorse. Okay. All in seconded. I saw a second. All in favor? Carried. All right. So I guess that brings us to our council report, SCRD report. And Councillor Inkster, you got anything you can update us on, please?
Sure. There's been a number of meetings, as has been sort of pointed out by the CAO that was there earlier on the organizational review over the last little while. That's an important document and process going forward. More to come, but there's been a number of meetings to do that org review. As when you do those reviews with many organizations, lots of discussion and recommendations. I wanted to mention that there was the presentation on the Langdale well last week, and there is some heavy concerns over the cost of that well. As those watching, and I think the mayor was there as well for that piece. And so I'm not sure where that project will go. The largest portion cost is on the actual well pump and building itself, but the lines to bring the water into the system are also almost $5 million. So obviously we'll take a closer look at that as that particular idea proceeds. But I think as it stands, it's just now all about putting the licensing in place and having the well approvals in place with the province in case we then need to tap it later. So I think that's a prudent approach at this point, but no commitment to expenditures, those large expenditures at this point. I think that some council members saw the water supply update, and that was a really important piece. And I think that council, if you can see it, they saw this sheet. I sent this sheet out to council, so it's really important information if anybody didn't see it to look at it again. About amount of water and the change in water supply and sources over the last number of years. The final thing is I should mention is the budget next round is, I think it was moved ahead rather than the existing date because of some of the changes the board has made. So it's actually on February 5th now. And then as that was mentioned earlier, and then the final adoption is a few weeks later. So that will be another long day in order to go through second round, and lots of important decisions, because a number of things, a lot of decisions were made at that meeting as to expenditures. And that's it until meetings next week, because of the snow, there's no meetings tomorrow. Thanks. There's no hospital meeting tomorrow. If that's why you got that look on your face. I think there's one meeting, but there's no hospital meeting tomorrow. I can't hear you.
We can't hear you, John.
That's the problem. I was going to offer Councillor Inkster, he's on a roll. Would he like to continue with with his councillor report?
Not much to say because we haven't gone into meetings. There's a couple of important issues to keep sort of appraised of. One is that looks like we're going to try to bring, and Councillor Rowe could relate to this, we're going to try to bring a big soccer tournament to the Sunshine Coast in June, and that has a lot of economic spin-offs for everybody if you get a lot of teams, a lot of players. So we have to make sure we have accommodations in place. And we have to have the fields up to proper usability. And so we have a really big problem with fields, but I think that our staff is starting to look at some solutions. Yeah, so that's about it. And just a little Christmas warning for those parents out there is just never buy animal crackers that says on the outside seal broken. Don't eat if seal broken and give them to your kids. It causes a lot of confusion. So I just wanted to say that because it's after Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you through the chair. Not much to report. I did thoroughly enjoy the budget discussions, and I still might forward some of my suggestions for working with the strategic plan. I like the fact that the SCRD referenced their priorities, definitely with their new strategic plan. I think that's essential. And I would like to see us maybe, if we refine as we go forward here, to do more of that. Also, I would ask people, given the weather, that they please drive slowly. Slowly, because people are walking on some of the shoveled sidewalks, and there's going to be a lot of mush out there. And they have to remember that they will splatter pedestrians if they don't go slowly. So please do that. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Councillor Shepherd.
Over the past 2 weeks, there was a meeting on January 4th of the Airport Development Committee. They finally finalized a grant funding application, thanks to the corporate officer for their help, and the finance department. I know the committee were very appreciative and are anxious for further tree topping to take place on the site or off the site, so that we could make use of the landing lights that have already been installed last year. January 10th, of course, the budget discussions internally, we're moving along. Happy to see that. January 11th, there's a monthly meeting of the Chamber of Commerce, and no single overriding issue. A lot of people very concerned about the dock management plan, which is affecting a lot of people. And finally, January 15th, the economic development group, SCREDO, had a board meeting. They're looking at a AGM in April, May, and looking forward to coming before Council of the Whole at the district to talk about their future plans. Thank you.
Like you said, there wasn't much going on. Councillor Bell, all the way from Whistler.
Twanik Whistler. Nothing to report. Oh, yes, one thing. I want to thank for the opportunity for being chair at the Committee of the Whole as part of that budget process. That was quite an experience, and now I really know what it feels like to be. I had whiplash after that, but thanks for all the support from my fellow councillors and from staff.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Rowe.
Not much to report. On a personal note, I started a new job back in community, so been busy with all the learnings attached to that. I just do want to recognize, though, that a long-suffering project is coming to fruition this week, and that yesterday we started moving residents into Silverstone. So that's gonna take a couple weeks to get all that done, thinking of all that staff and family and those patients. It's not easy for seniors to move like that, so appreciate everybody working extra hard, including, I'm going to assume, our own snow plows, et cetera, that we're helping to make that passage doable. And you could almost, we even talked about this 2 weeks ago, that if it's gonna snow, it'll snow when the move starts, and there you go, there it happened. So good to see that that's finally open and moving ahead. So that's it. Nothing else for me.
Great, thank you. I would echo that and other comments about staff. Many of you probably don't know, but the Water Resource Center group, I gather, some of them have worked from 1 a.m. through the night to do some technical studies. I learned of that and didn't think we worked at that hour of the morning, but they did. We certainly know the Public Works and Parks team have been out day in and day out, all day and all night in some cases, especially over the last few days. So a big shout out to them. And especially for the public who probably hasn't heard yet, but we had a water leak in the district hall and library as a result of the bad weather. And we had some great cooperation from staff to show up very early and work miracles to make it as not any worse than it is. So we'll have learn more in the coming days, I'm sure. I had a number of interactions with the public, people over the Christmas break, socially, and as some of council probably knows, going to the grocery store for a quart of milk can be a 45-minute experience when somebody wants to talk. So that's great. And we had there's some real positive let's get on and make things work. And I appreciate that. Last, and on a sad note, we had yet again another fatality on the highway at Toreto and Inlet. And I guess I want to say to everybody, you know, it's fine to be in the right as a pedestrian, but you're going to lose even if you're in the right. So please be careful and make eye contact with the drivers and don't challenge a car. You might be in the right, but you're going to be in trouble. So with that, I will look to see if there's anything else. Whoops, Councillor Inkster. My goodness. You're muted. Muted. Thanks. Yep. Nope.
Thanks for reminding me of that that sad situation. I just wanted to let everyone know that the individual that accident happened to was a former District of Sechelt employee in the 80s and 90s. And I actually worked with that individual in bylaw enforcement as a summer student. So it was sad to find out the details this week.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Inkster. Council, we then can go to item 11.1, which is seeking a letter of support for an award nomination. Any concerns or comments, Council? If not, entertain a motion to provide said letter of support. Seconded. Any discussion again? All in favor? Carried. And then the second item, 11.1B, is a request for again motion that we will promote the 988 number, I guess it was called, hotline. That moved and seconded. Okay. Now this is looking for an actual motion, but I guess we're looking for, staff is looking for us to approve. that we will bring a motion back.
Your worship, the request provides a suggested motion, but my understanding of the request is to display the poster that they've provided and help promote the hotline. You're welcome to make this motion, and then it in effect is somewhat like a proclamation.
So, council, how would you like to proceed?
I'll move the motion.
A motion on page 55 with.
Correct.
With the
Yeah.
blanks, with the blanks suitably filled in.
Yep.
But okay, and a second for that, Counselor Bell? Yeah. Okay, any discussion on that? Okay. All in favor? Carried. That brings us to the end of the agenda. Council, anything else? Staff, anything else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.